meet and greet. Oh, recording in progress. Excellent. Welcome to the virtual meet and greet with Frog Lady presentations. Let us know in the chat where you are streaming from tonight and if you've been to any of the other Beer in the Woods events. We're always excited to hear if this is your first time or if you're like an old hat, done this a million times. I am welcoming you officially to the second night of the Beer in the Woods virtual festival. My name's Nick. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm going to be the host all week up until Friday's trivia game. Each night I'm going to be joined by Alana from Friends of the Forest Preserves and also one of our festival partners. And before I introduce both of them, I'll introduce myself and go over a little bit of ground rules for our evening. So a bit more about me. In a previous life, I taught college composition and creative writing. I've also taught speed reading and comprehension to students of all ages. Today, I'm an educational professional who runs an academic summer camp on Northwestern University's Evanston campus. And this year I'm volunteering as part of the Beer in the Woods committee. And I'm really excited to kind of join my joy of presenting and my commitment to education in tonight's educational event. We're just about to get started, but before I introduce our guests, let me just go through some of our group norms for our community online tonight. First of all, we absolutely want to hear from you in the chat stream. This is a webinar style, so we can't see your faces. So we really appreciate your comments, your questions, your hilarity in the chat as our presentation goes on. Go ahead and open that up if you haven't already done so. You can find it in the bottom of your Zoom menu. And if you don't yet see it, you can click on more and you should have the option to open up the chat that way. You are also encouraged to share your first name and your pronouns the way that I've done in my tile. If you'd like to change your name or rename yourself, you can click on your name and your tile or open up the participants list and find the more when you hover next to your name, and you'll see rename as an option there. And I do want to make sure that everyone, especially if you just came in, knows that we are recording tonight. Your face isn't going to be on the screen if you are in the audience, but everybody should be aware that we are recording, and so the chat will also be recorded. Let's see. Lastly, this is a family-friendly event. We're all here to have fun, learn a little, enjoys the company of like-minded folks. And I want to make sure that everybody keeps their comments and their questions in the chat in line with those aims. Thank you all in advance for your engagement. And with that, I will introduce Alana. Alana Fetterman is the outreach manager for Friends of the Forest Preserves. She wears many hats, but her favorite role is event planner for Beer in the Woods. After working in the wine and beverage industry for over a decade, she loves being able to combine her passions for wine and beer with environmental work and bringing communities together. So here's Alana.
Thank you, Nick, and thank you, Deb. Thanks to all of you who are here with us tonight. I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to talk just for a few minutes about Friends of the Forest Preserves and the Forest Preserves of Cook County. Bear with me. So first of all, this is a quick lineup of the event tonight. Of course, we've got meet and greet with the animals with Frog Lady presentations, and the rest of the schedule is listed. You'll see this again later, but if you haven't already registered for the other events, I highly recommend that you do so. So Friends of the Forest Preserves unites people to protect, promote, and care for the forest preserves in Cook County. And why would we want to do this? Well, the forest preserves are 70,000 acres. So it is the largest and oldest forest preserve of its kind in the nation. We're actually older than the National Park Service, which was founded in 1916, and the Forest Preserves of Cook County was established in 1914. So there's a lot of land to cover. Another reason why we want to protect and care for the forest preserves is because there is an immense amount of biodiversity. Cook County is the most ecologically diverse county in Illinois, so it is home to hundreds of different species of animals and plants, and they live in many, many habitats. They live in woodlands, savannas, wetlands, and prairies. So sometimes when you think about the forest preserves, you might think about the wooded areas and dense trees, but there's actually lots of habitat diversity. And you're going to learn about some of those animals that live in the forest preserves from Deb. Now, how do we care and protect the forest preserves? We do this in multiple ways. We employ youth and adults to work in our conservation corps programs, and many of them work year-round doing hands-on restoration work, removing invasive species, also planting native seeds and native shrubs to really sustain and increase that biodiversity that we want to have. We also help to organize thousands of volunteers across the county. So we help and nurture them to earn certifications and really help them on their path to become stewards of the land. Now, I've talked about the how, and now I'm going to talk about the why. And that's because the forest preserves are amazing. They're an amazing place to go and relax and play and learn and get inspired. And we at Friends of the Forest Preserves, we organize dozens of events throughout the year, most of which, nearly all of which, are free. And we have biking events, we have birding events, camping and canoeing. So, well, the camping you can do at the forest preserves, but the canoeing and the kayaking we've planned. So nearly everything you can do in the forest preserves, we do help plan. I should say Beer in the Woods is one exception, one of two exceptions where we do charge a fee for this event because it is our major fundraiser. So once again, thank you all for coming, and I'm going to toss it back to Nick and Deb.
Awesome, thank you. All right, so now I want to introduce our Beer in the Woods virtual festival partner tonight, which is Deb from Frog Lady Presentations. Deb has been an animal lover and a nature enthusiast for a long time. Her early love of all things wild led to her bachelor's degree in Fisheries and Wildlife Biology from Iowa State and an environmental education specialization in interpretation of natural resources. Today, she and her animal coworkers make up Frog Lady. And Frog Lady has earned multiple environmental education awards since its start in 2007. Deb, we are so excited that you can join us tonight. The floor is all yours. Thank you so much.
Deb, you are muted.
I'm on mute. There we go. Thank you. So thank you for the intro. And I would like to add, with the forest preserves, you know, I grew up in Iowa. When I moved to the Chicago area with my husband, he was like, there'll be plenty of jobs for a naturalist. And I was like, Chicago? I got to this area, and it's amazing how many forest preserves are here and the amount of beauty and nature that is in our backyard. So definitely take advantage of the most beautiful forest preserves. Like I said, in Iowa, where I come from, there was no forethought. There's like very little nature left. So I was a naturalist for Will County for many years, and then started my own program with Frog Lady. I love animals, all of them, every single one. But I found through my years of education that people like the furry stuff, the feathery stuff, the pretty stuff. And I feel like some of our other animals kind of get pushed to the side, or even worse, people become scared of them. So I specialize in herpetology, which is the study of amphibians and reptiles. And I have, well, you're gonna see, I have collected several animals over the years. And when I say collect, it's not anything wild. You don't ever want to take animals out of the wild. What I mean by collect is that I've adopted several, I've taken in a lot that needed homes. And so tonight I'm going to take you on a little tour of my little slice of heaven here, my little basement That's where I keep all my critters when we're not working. You know, when the pandemic started, it was a little scary for me because I'm not a very computer person. I'm not very tech. And so people are like, oh, you got to do virtual, you got to do all these Zoom things. And I was really freaked out. I've since learned that it's really neat because you get to see where all my animals are kept, which is always the number one question from adults at my programs. And also you get to see some things close up that I don't really think you'd get to see if you came to one of my programs. So there's definitely some silver linings here. And with that, I would like to get started. I am going to quickly, let's see. I'm going to quickly turn my camera around. So I just have a normal house, and what would be a normal basement, you come down these steps. That's where the normalcy ends because this is where I keep over 50 reptiles and amphibians. I have several different species. Yes, over 50. And I know that sounds crazy, and I guess it is crazy. A lot of them are very small, so that helps. Yeah, some of them aren't though, but you'll see here. So the basement actually could probably house more containers or more animals. What happens is all of these animals need lights, and that's where you kind of get cut off. You know, your house can only sustain so much electricity. So when we get our electric bill every month, they always ask us like, or they always show us, here's what your neighbors use and here's what you use. And we look like we are just like, I don't know, trying to send NASA to the moon with our electricity here. But this is the basement. It does look a little bit like a nature center or a reptile room or zoo. But they all have to have their own enclosures because they all need very specific different types of habitat. So you couldn't keep this giant tortoise in a tank, it wouldn't work. And some of the tanks need humidity, whereas some of them need dry. So that is kind of why we have so many. Now,
can I ask you a question?
Sure, interrupt at any time.
The tortoise habitat right there, did you build that, or do you bring in other folks who, you know, to build those kinds of things for you?
Yes, if you look real close, it's not professionally done. In fact, the first time that I did this, these are all retaining brick, retaining wall bricks, and they're about 20 pounds a piece. The first time I did that, I didn't glue them down because I didn't think that Diesel would be able to break through them. The very first day, he completely busted them. So I lovingly call Diesel my troublemaker because he is a troublemaker. He just creates so many problems in my life. I love him to death, and you'd have to love him to put up with it. He's a 50-pound Sulcata tortoise, and he just is not meant to be a pet. So, so many stories I could tell you about him. This is his grass. This is literally his first day coming in from the summer. So the summer he's outside. He has an outdoor enclosure, which is much bigger. And then he's allowed to eat grass out there all day too. He will be pouting for the first month that he's back inside. But like today, it's going to get down to into the low 50s. That's too cold for him to be out. So it's sadly officially time for him to be back inside. If anyone is interested in my outdoor enclosures, I do have some videos on YouTube that you can look and see what they do in the summertime. So that's Diesel, the Sulcata. And then we kind of have like lizard land over here. Lots more tortoises, snakes over here. But these are the redfoot tortoises, and then marginated. This is a leopard tortoise. Again, and he's already gone to bed. How cute is it when they sleep? It's so cute. Lots of snakes, and most of them are incredibly friendly. This guy right here is probably my one exception to that rule. Now he's fine if you don't mess with him, but if I went in there and tried to pick him up, he does not want to be touched. Just like some people that aren't cuddly, you know, some of the snakes don't want to be handled. And so I do respect that. Lots of snakes. Some you can see need very high humidity. You'll see the condensation there. Some like the corn snake here. There's a ball python in there somewhere. The corn snake, not quite as much. And I have another corn snake in here. The problem with the bigger the enclosure with the better hiding spots, it makes it all the harder to see the animals, which is always like when zoos do their enclosures, that's the hardest problem. They want the public to see their animals, but it's very hard because you want the animals to also feel like they're home and safe. This is
Deb,
not for you. Yes.
So just noticing that since you had two corn snakes, one on top of the other, is that mainly just in terms for space and light logistics, or do they not like habitating the same space? You know, are they like one animal, one domicile type of thing?
Yes. Yeah. So typically reptiles do not like to live with other reptiles. Most reptiles are solitary creatures, and the only time that they're going to be with another reptile of their own kind is during mating season. These two are males, and I did have them together once because we were at a show and I had just kind of plopped them in, and it was during spring, which is mating season, and they were fighting. So when snakes fight, they wrap their necks around each other and slam each other into the ground. So not so good for that. So yeah, they just do better on their own. And I do have some tortoises like the redfoots that will hang out together. Some of the box turtles can hang out together, but typically they just like to be by themselves. Very few reptiles in the wild are animals that want to have a buddy. So, and then my shelving units here, you'll see the sheets. Diesel's enclosure is so dusty, so I put the sheets up just to keep all my educational supplies from being too messed up. They get so dusty down here. And I do have a really high grade filter that I turn on in the winter that helps, but I do like to cover everything up for the dust. And then I think this is maybe just one more you didn't see. This is just like a Cuban tree frog is in there somewhere. So,
hey, Deb,
right.
we do have a question, and I think you might have planned to get to this later, but the question is asked now. How many of your animals are native to Illinois?
So I have under 7, and I'm going to just turn this around. There we go. I have under 7 native reptiles. A lot of times when I do Beer in the Woods, I will borrow reptiles from other people that own them, other like Chicago Herpetological Society members, just so I can make more of a show there. But there's a law in Illinois that you cannot keep more than 7 Illinois species per person per household. Technically, because my husband lives here, and it has to be over 18. So I have a son too, but they have to be over 18 for that to count. So technically I could have 14 species, but my husband is not into this at all. So I follow all laws and all rules, and you can only have 7 per adult. So I keep it under 7. And typically I take in rescues, so I don't get a whole bunch of natives. I think a lot of times people who get, the native animals, I do have a few frogs that landed in window wells. But typically, if there's like a native animal that someone saw in the wild, hopefully we can get them to put it back where they found it. Sometimes people think it's an animal that doesn't belong there. And then if we find out, oh yeah, this actually is like a snapping turtle, he belongs where you found him, we try to get them to put it back exactly in the spot that they had it. So, okay, so I would love to show you some of my critters up close. during the whole pandemic and trying to figure out how to do all the Zoom stuff, I've done like a million different ways. And this is how I figure it out. It works best, is I sit here so that I'm not moving the camera around so much and making people car sick. And then I have taken some animals out of their enclosures, put them in their travel bins, and so we can see them up close here. So I think because, forest preserves, I think we should start with a native just because, native. A lot of us educators kind of go back and forth between, should we just do native animals, because a lot of people don't know what's in their backyards. Yes, in a lot of ways, I feel like we should do just natives. But then on the other hand, too, people nowadays are so far removed from nature that they think iguanas are outside our back door. And, a Komodo dragon might live in Florida. They don't know. So in a lot of ways, just having the exotics is also a good stepping stone into kind of getting an idea of what else is out there. Okay, so I just grabbed this guy first. This is a beautiful green snake. So very, very small, slender, delicate snake. The green snake is found in our forest preserves, and they like wet, marshy areas. That's where I have always found them. They prefer, if you were going to go into their habitat, typically I think you would want boots on. I think your tennis shoes or your hiking boots would get a little wet if you were looking for them in their natural habitat. So they are a common species. We just don't see them very often because they're not the type to like head into someone's yard or, that wet, marshy bog kind of area. And the forest preserve isn't typically where someone's going to walk. But they are doing very well in our forest preserves. They're actually quite common. So that's the green snake. They eat insects, they eat slugs. So they are actually an insectivore. In fact, all the other snakes that I have all eat rodents of some kind, or, if they were wild, they might eat birds, but this is my only insect eaters. They're very docile, very sweet. I've picked them up in the forest preserves before, and they never try to bite. They never try to harm you. Just beautiful, beautiful, sweet snakes.
Deb, question is, how do you simulate a wet area for their habitat?
So in his enclosure, he has a very wet cypress mulch, and he has plenty of places to hide as well. But just cypress mulch, and then it's damp. Mm-hmm. And I have had him now for several years, and he's done very, very well. So he's really sweet.
My follow-up question, you said this is your only insect eater. Yes. Does that mean that this snake has kind of a different body than a rodent eater? Like, how is this snake biologically different from the other snakes you have?
Well, for one thing, the green snakes have incredibly long tails. I don't know if that has something to do with their food choice. I'm not really sure why that is, but a tail on a snake is considered the part, and this is his cloaca, if you can see that. Mm-hmm. That's where he goes to the bathroom. If it was a female, that's where she would also lay eggs. But from that all the way to the tip is considered the tail. And so this is the snake's tail. That is so long for a snake's tail. Typically, male snakes have longer tails than females. If somebody was working on their thesis with green snakes, they were working with them all the time, seeing them all the time, they would probably get good enough to really be able to go, hey, that's a girl, hey, that's a boy. If you don't, really zone in on one snake in every day, like a breeder would also probably really know. It's kind of hard to tell. I mean, you can kind of be like, oh, that's a pretty long tail. But for me, I still need my veterinarian. My veterinarian can do what's called a probe. So they do a little exam and then for sure. So, all right, so that's the green snake. Let's see. Find my lid here. All right. I guess since we're still doing native, I'm going to show you, and this is one of those really cool things about the Zooms, is that this would be really hard if we were like in a lecture hall and there were 100, 200 people, you know, maybe 2 people would see this up close, but today everyone gets to see it nice and up close. So this is our gray tree frog. This is a very, very common tree frog here in the Chicago area. And this one is a male, and I know that because he sings his heart out every spring. So the male frogs are the singers. The females typically just listen. But the male tree frogs, the gray tree frogs, they do, it almost sounds like a woodpecker, if you're familiar with that. Oh, and there he just went. It sounds like a, and that would be every April. Late April, early May, you'll hear that, and you'll hear that in our forest. I better grab him real quick. He went flying. Okay, there you go. Okay, so this little gray tree frog, I did get from a lady. She was in Missouri, so they're down in Missouri as well. They have a pretty big range. She moved to the Chicago area in the wintertime, and she had some pots out on her back porch. Some plants, and where she was, the plants were could still survive down there. But when she brought the plants in, when she got to Chicago, because it was so cold, this little tree frog came out. And so apparently he had been hibernating in there, and then he came out, and this woman was so sweet. She was like, I'll drive him back. I could totally drive him back down there. What should I do? And I was like, well, he'd be a great ambassador. So if you don't mind him being an ambassador, then you know, I can take care of him. So he's been with me for, I think, 5 years now, and he was an adult when I got him. So I have no idea for sure how old he is, but I do know every spring I wish he had a girlfriend, because he just sings his little heart out down here, and I'm like, I'm sorry you don't have a girlfriend.
Deb,
yes.
There is a question about, sure, do the gray tree frogs like favor any particular tree? Like, is it?
That is such a good question. So that's what's so cool about the gray tree frog. They actually do like to sit on the bark of the tree. So I don't know if there's any particular species of tree, one over the other, and I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, there totally could be. Nature's so amazing, and there's always these little things we find out we're like, wow, mind-blowing. But with that frog, he does sit on the bark. He never sits on the leaves, and you can see his color helps him camouflage with the bark. Compare that now to a red-eyed tree frog, which would be a species from Central America. Oh, and very jumpy. One second. Come here. It's funny, I have 2 red-eyed tree frogs. I can't tell them apart until I have them in a program, because one of them is super chill and one of them is not. This is obviously the non-chill one. This is the red-eyed tree frog. Now, when she is camouflaging, she's going to sit always on the green part of the plant, so on the tree. So she'll be on the leaves. Every time I go into the gray tree frog's enclosure, he's always on like the tree part. This one's always on the leaves. So I don't know if it's the species, like just preferred that plant part first, and then they evolve for the color. I don't know. I just think it's amazing. So cool. So this is the red-eyed tree frog. Obviously not from around here, but Costa Rica. Very, very beautiful. Hides its colors and just has the green when it's sleeping. So it looks just like the leaf. But when it is, excuse me, when it is walking around, it has all the colors. And that tells predators that it's poisonous or toxic. Don't eat me. Not toxic or poisonous at all. Completely harmless, but pretends to be. If you see, one more time. Such amazing jumpers. And they're little feet, as you can see here. Their little feet keep them attached. Tree frogs live in the trees, so those little feet act like suction cups, the toes, really keep them safe. And when they jump, I mean, they can land so far away and they just stick and keeps them safe.
It's so small, Deb. Is this a normal size? I mean, I'm watching you hold it on your finger.
Yes. So this is average size for a red-eyed tree frog. Yes. So no, this is not native. This is totally an exotic tree frog. This would be from Central America. Very, very common in Central America. They are, you know, people will go on tours there and they'll be like stuck to the window of your hotel. They're just everywhere and they're just so beautiful. If you do see the frogs too, they have like their little chins are moving in and out. Let's see if we can get that a little more. And that is how a frog is breathing. So they actually get their air through their skin, which is why frogs are so slimy and wet. You see that little chin there moving. That is how he's getting his air. So they breathe through their skin. They drink water through their skin as well. So very sensitive as far as, you know, pollutants can go, because they're going to suck that in whether they want to or not. As long as we're doing frogs, I have to show you my biggest frog. Now, this is the second largest frog in the world, but it is the largest frog in my basement. And by far the most handsome. Check out this guy. This is Jabba the Hutt. He is an African bullfrog. And the first thing about him, he's so much calmer. He's so chill compared to my little tree frogs that are like keeping me moving. The African bullfrog obviously comes from Africa. They're sub-Saharan area, so a pretty large chunk of the continent. There's several countries that can claim this frog. This is a rule breaker. Out of all the frogs, you know, we make rules in nature all the time. Like, well, only, you know, the girl frogs always get bigger, and the girl frogs, no frogs take care of their babies. Well, actually, this frog is the rule breaker of all of that, because the boy frogs of the African bullfrog do get larger. Partly it's because they fight each other. The boys will actually like bang into each other. If you watch a video, like there's videos on YouTube, they look like little bowling balls heading across the pond. But they'll fight for space for females, and then they'll also dig trenches for their baby tadpoles. So when the baby frog is in the puddle, and I have lovely. So tadpoles. So frogs lay eggs, they hatch into tadpoles, back legs, front legs, the tail shrinks. But when they're at this stage, they're in the water and they're breathing with gills. They're almost like a fish at that point. Well, if their pond starts to dry up and pockets of water get separated from the main pond, he will actually dig a trench from the main pond to their little puddles. So the water flows in. That way the tadpoles can go back into the main pond and they won't dry out before they metamorph. So amazing, because frog parental care is unheard of. I mean, there's very few that do it. And so he's a good daddy. He's very good. We could see if he wants a little bug to eat here. I have another friend here who's probably going to steal it, so I got to hide him so he won't see it. All right, so let's see. I'll put that bug down there. Oh, I grabbed it before I could even get it situated. Let's see. All right, there we go. So he has a really sticky tongue. It grabs the bug, and then he swallows it whole. So frogs do not have true teeth. Yes.
Is his tongue very wide, or is it just?
It is pretty wide at the ends. Yeah, and it's very sticky. Okay. So he grabs the bug, and then he swallows it whole. They don't have teeth to chew. So some frogs, including this one, actually have little projections of bone on part of their skull. So they can actually bite, and that's so rare with frogs. He's never bitten. I would assume it's like pretty much with, you know, prey items, helps hold on to prey items. But typically that's very, very unusual for frogs. Yeah, so they swallow it whole. They don't have any teeth to chew. So cute. And also the best of all the hat wearing creatures. He's like, no, frog lady.
Oh my gosh.
But I love hats on animals.
Amazing.
Yeah, so if somebody happened to be afraid of reptiles, which is very common in my job, sometimes I do anthropomorphize a little bit and put some hats on animals, and it helps kind of make a bridge over. So they're like, oh, okay, now it's wearing a hat, can't be that bad. And then from then on, we kind of slowly move. Anytime someone has a fear of reptiles or amphibians, I never, ever, ever push. You don't ever want to, force someone. I've seen people that do my job that like throw snakes on people's necks, and that is the worst thing you can do. So you want to let them come to you and, have it just, very calm. If they don't want to, don't make them. But the hats is one of the best things I've ever found. So I should show you this guy here that's on my lap. The bearded dragon. I don't know if anyone out there has one or has seen one before. I remember the first time I ever saw a bearded dragon, it was the year 2002, and I was at Brookfield Zoo, and a docent was walking around with this lizard, and she was holding it in her hand, and she was letting people pet it, and I was like, what is that amazing animal? So I remember how fascinated I was the first time I saw one, and so if it's your first time, I totally know. I know the feeling. They are also very good with the hats. They can wear clothes. I mean, a lot of kids love bearded dragons. In fact, this has become the #1 reptile pet in the United States. Most of it is because they're just so relaxed and chill. The only reason he's moving right now is he sees all these bugs. So he's obsessed with eating these bugs. And so we'll have to give him one. Now you'll notice he has a sticky tongue too, but he's going to chew it up. And he has horrible table manners, as you can see. There is no like polite chewing with your mouth closed if you're a bearded dragon. These lizards come from Australia. They don't have fur. The reason they have the name bearded dragon is because if they feel frightened or if they feel like something might be hurting them or trying to eat them in the wilds of Australia, typically hawks are their #1 predator. But if they see an animal coming towards them, or they'll puff out their chin, it turns black. They do have all these little spikes here. Now this is very soft, and he'll be there on Saturday. So I hope you get the chance to pet him. You can even hold him. I mean, they're so friendly. He can be passed around for hours. It's like, okay. But if he was in that threat display, they get kind of pokey. It wouldn't be anything like, oh, my finger's bleeding or anything like that. But right now they're super soft. And if you went into that threat display, it would be really hard. It's really rare to see captive or pet beardies do that because they're not really seeing hawks. Once I did see my bearded dragons, I had 5 of them out, and a plane flew over. We were all outside. And the bearded dragons all just scattered in 5 different directions because I think they thought that plane was just flying low. I think they thought it was a hawk. It was bizarre. I got everybody back. They only like go 10 feet and then they just sit. So that's their second defense, is just to blend in. They're not desert, but close. So really hot, dry, out in the open. But that's the bearded dragon. Lots of bugs. Bugs are his favorite. But they eat a lot of fruits and veggies too. They have to have both. The bugs do have to be alive, much to the dismay of parents whose children want one. They're like, oh, I think. Yeah.
Sorry, didn't mean to. Before you move on from the bearded dragon, the area the area where his ears would be, it looks like a little bit of a hollow area. Is that his ear?
That is his ear. Yep. Yep. It's very much like our ear. He's got like a tympanum in there. He's got like an eardrum. He just doesn't have that outer cover. And that's a great segue into my next lizard, because everybody assumes that this is a snake when they first see it, but because of the ears, you can tell that it is a lizard. This is a skink. Now, right away, you can see those ears, that slit on her head there, that's her ear. There's another one over there. Now, she does have legs, but they're very, very small. We have here in Illinois a legless lizard. It's literally, that's what it's called, legless lizard. And they are, I think the closest up to us would be Will County. They have them in Medawin Prairie, and they're common. It's not even, you'd be like, oh my gosh, legless lizards here. Yeah, they're common. They just like that prairie habitat. So, you know, we're not really seeing them very often. But this one does have the legs. But again, if you're looking for, if it's a lizard or a snake, the first thing you want to look for is ears, and they have ears. Snakes do not. So we know she is a lizard. Now, she is also flicking her beautiful blue tongue. That tongue is flicking for smell. Lizards and snakes both smell with their tongues. So every time she's flicking that, she's just smelling. But she would use her tongue as a defense as well. She flares it. So she goes like that. If something were to eat her. She comes from Australia, very similar habitat as the bearded dragon. So again, a lot of hawks, also big lizards will eat these. The blue color scares them away. It says, hey, I'm poisonous, I'm toxic, I'm venomous, don't eat me. She is none of those things. She's completely harmless. And her teeth are very tiny. Like if she were to bite you, I don't think it would even break the skin. But they're also very sweet, gentle, like really good pet lizards. She is just turned 21. So these live to be on average about 25 years. The bearded dragons average 12 to 13. So these are a little bit longer. The nice thing about the blue-tongued skinks is they will eat their protein source. They don't have to have the live bugs. Like if the live bugs freak you out, you don't want to have to get live bugs. She'll eat dog food, chicken, boiled chicken, all kinds of other, protein sources. But the beardies have to have the live bugs. So that's Baxter. She's actually the first reptile I ever adopted. So I've had her for 20 years. She was 1 year old when I got her.
Did you say her name's Baxter?
Baxter. So we never knew if it was a male or a female. And 4 years ago, I babysat somebody else's blue-tongued skink, and we put that person's skink in with her because we were like, I assumed she was a girl. Her head is a little bit more narrow, but you don't know for sure. I never had her probed. And this other person's lizard skink was definitely a male. He knew, I think he'd had it probed, but they did not get along. Like they were biting each other, fighting, we left him for a little bit. And then I was like, I think she's too stressed out. And she's shedding right now if you see this stuff coming off her. But about, I think it was 4 months later, she had babies. So then we knew for sure she was a girl. And what's really weird, the skink actually bear live young. So bearded dragons, they'll lay like 26 eggs. But the blue tongues, 6 babies come out, and they're big. And I took her to a show. I was getting her out to show people, and I thought she'd gone to the bathroom. I thought it was like she waste material. And I looked and it was moving. I'm like, oh my gosh. So I gave them all to friends of mine that, reptile, other reptile nerds like me. I did not want any more because, one more cage, one more heat lamp, one more UV light. I'm just at max.
Can you tell us more about the shedding?
Yeah.
Like how frequently she does it? Or
sure. So she doesn't shed very often. She actually sheds about twice a year. And when she sheds, her little, her scale pieces come off individually. She's very unusual in that because the big lizards or the bearded dragon too, they shed in big chunks. Hers just comes off one little scale at a time. And sometimes on her feet, you'll see they kind of like there's one big chunk there off her feet. If you look real close, It's like almost like a little glove that came off. Super cute. But yeah, reptiles shed depending on their age, how fast they're growing. You know, if they're older and they're not really getting much bigger, they don't shed as often. A baby reptile that's grown a lot, like a baby reptile, like let's say a baby snake, sheds maybe every month. So, but she's only like twice a month at most, I would say. I will show you actually, and this guy's shedding too right now. And I don't know, sometimes we have, it seems like everyone's shedding at once, and then other times it doesn't seem that way. I don't know if there's really anything going on environmentally in my basement or like outside or amount of sunlight. I don't know if there's something there. You know, there's always answers in nature. I just don't know what they are, but I think, you know, I question them all the time. All right. So he's my big guy. This is my friend Chummy. So Chummy, and you're gonna see that tongue right away. He's got the very long forked tongue. He's smelling, excellent sense of smell. Very much like a dog, just really, really good sense of smell. He is incredibly intelligent. People ask me, how do I know? Well, it's hard to say. You know, there are definitely studies that show the tegus are very smart. One study shows they can count up to 8. So every time you feed them, if you fed them 8, let's say you give them 8 mice every time you feed them, and let's say you do that for, you know, like a year at least, and then one day you just give them 7. Well, he will act like, I still deserve another mouse here. So they can count, but only up to 8. I feel personally, from what I've noticed, is they're not, so some of my lizards will fight each other, whether, you know, like 2 male bearded dragons will just fight. Even if there's not a girl around. And typically they are fighting because they want to have that territory. But I feel like a smarter, or maybe, you know, it's hard to judge animal intelligence because who knows what he's thinking. He could be way smarter than me. But he will see another male tegu and he will not fight the male tegu unless there's a female around. So it's kind of, I feel like that's so much more intelligent, because if you get into a fight, you can hurt yourself. You could get injured. You could get killed. So like the bearded dragons are like, oh, I see another guy, I'm just gonna fight it, you know. And that seems not as bright to me. Whereas the tegus are like, whoa, everybody just calm down. There's no females. Let's just get along. I've also noticed, like, if I'm like putting him in like a bin, you know, just for 10 minutes, like I just need to put him in a bin so I can clean his cage or something like that. He can get out of pretty much anything that's not a professional lizard enclosure. Whereas a bearded dragon would just be like, I'm sitting in here for the rest of my life. This guy can get out of stuff.
So Deb,
he's very squirmy right now.
That begs the question of where does he live in your basement, and how big is he? How much does he weigh? How much are you like struggling?
He is only about 10 pounds, which I know that probably seems bigger than he is, but let me just show you too. I'm going to show you how it walks. One move. Let's see. Okay. So, okay, here is my flip-flop. I have huge feet though. So I don't know, that makes him look like he's way smaller than he is. He is, let's see. I moved my ruler, but he is probably from tip to tip, he's at least 2.5. This is my friend Fireball. He is one I got as a baby. This is one of the only reptiles I have ever purchased. I got him from a breeder, but I got him because I fell in love with this one. So this one I adopted, And he just became so near and dear to my heart, and everyone loves him. He's just like a puppy dog too. He's so friendly. He's so fun to watch. He has a leash and a harness. So he goes for walks outside, of course, when it's nice out. And I just love him. I just do. So I did get this one because I thought, I don't want to have to take Chummy out every single show. Like, that's not fair to him to not be in the heat and enjoying himself. He's actually probably going back to his own enclosure. So I do let him out to explore the basement a lot, just to let him have exercise. And he always goes back in on his own. So this enclosure is his. This is an 8-foot long enclosure, and I think it is about 3 feet wide. So, and it's specifically for reptiles. You would not want to try to like kind of make your own, unless if you're a really good builder, but they just know how to get out of stuff. So,
Deb, we have a question about where they live in the wild.
Yes. So this is the Argentine Tegu. So Argentina and surrounding countries. So South American. And would you believe it? They actually farm these for their leather in South America. So they actually have farms down there because the leather is so prized for purses and wallets and boots. I mean, it is beautiful. I feel like it belongs on him, and it's interesting too. And if you guys notice, he's dragging his back end right now. He's trying to put scent gland all over the ground. He is literally like, this is my space. And I'm gonna, it's kind of like a dog marking. And both my Tegus will do that when they get out. They'll both do that. Interestingly, Chummy never did that before I got the other Tegu. So I don't know if they're talking to each other that way, kind of like, hey, it's my space. But there was one day I did accidentally leave both enclosures open. I think I had let one run around and the other one was at work with me. And then I put one back, and for some reason I didn't get the cage closed. And then I came down later and they were both next to each other asleep under the same heat lamp. And I was just like, oh my gosh, thank goodness they didn't fight or something. But again, they're just smarter. They just like, okay, there's no girl to fight over. So I would never bring a female down here because I think it might change up the whole dynamic. So, yeah, very awesome. Listen, by the way, those giant cheeks, those are male. That's only the boys get up. So the girls have very small cheeks. The boys, it's muscle. And they will fight, they will clamp down on each other. And typically they clamp down on each other's cheeks. So not only does it act like, they'll wrestle, but it will help him survive the bite too. Like it's just thick and it's a good place to get it. He doesn't really get hurt, but they'll wrestle, and they wouldn't typically fight to the death. Pretty soon they figure out who's smarter. And so bigger and stronger. And the stronger one just gets the girl. They've done studies where the girls love the biggest cheeks. So they send a girl down a row of Tegus, and the boys can't see each other. They've got them partitioned off, but the girls will always pick the boy with the biggest cheeks. So apparently that makes the best dad material. Big cheeks.
Deb, just thinking about like how the Tegu is walking and such reminds me of just, evolutionary beginnings.
Sure.
Is the Tegu a type of animal that perhaps has been on the earth for a lot longer than we have?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yes. In fact, reptiles are way further along than us. We are so new on the earth compared to reptiles. One of the coolest things though, if you're into evolution, it's amazing. The Tegus are what we call New World lizards. So they're from South America. Now, if you look at like water monitors, Komodo dragons, those are all old world lizards. And if I had like a water monitor here, a Komodo dragon, and I put him next to the Tegu and you watch them walk, you watch them eat, you watch them do their stuff, they look so similar and they look like they had the same ancestor. Because they just do all the same stuff. They act the same way, but they didn't. I mean, they are not related at all. So it was nature's way of like, South America didn't have this big lizard void to fill. So the Tegus came along and did it. Just amazing, amazing stuff. But I should probably move on to something else. Let's see.
We just have about 5 more minutes, so maybe just one more. So prioritize one of your best of the list.
I know. Oh my gosh, it's so hard to do. I should probably show you my friend Dirk. He is a native box turtle. This is the eastern box turtle. They are found in wooded areas. We do have in Illinois the ornate box turtle, which is a little more prairie. Those are endangered, obviously, because we don't have as much prairie anymore. But the box turtle, the eastern box turtle, is actually doing very well. We don't have a whole lot in the Chicago area anymore, just because even though we have amazing forest preserves and lots of space for them, and they're a small animal, you wouldn't think they'd need a whole lot, their range is really big. So when you do like telemetry on them or GPS them, they can go from one side of the preserve to the other in just like 3 days, and that can be many miles, and you're like, wow, how'd they do that? So eventually, they hit a roadway or somebody picks them up. Dirk came to me from someone in the Chicago Herp Society, actually willed him to me when he passed away. Dirk is over 70 years old now, and he's over 70. We don't know how old he is, but he definitely is at least that. And he is amazing in so many ways, but I will show you his favorite. Oh my gosh, did I not? Oh, I do have to grab her real quick. Let's see. This is his girlfriend. She is not native, but box turtles are genetically able to breed. It's just that they are separated by habitat in the wild. So this would be the Midwest box turtle. This is more southeastern United States. She was found in one of our forest preserves. Someone had let her go in the forest preserve, which is never a good thing to do. So she's southeastern, she likes warmer weather. There have been some studies that show they can survive our milder winters, but like those really cold winters, she's probably not going to do very well. And then the other reason, of course, we don't want to release things into the forest preserve because down in southeastern, let's say Kentucky, where she came from, she might have some kind of disease or parasite that is not here in our forest preserves, but now that someone released her, it could release into ours. So there's just a multitude of reasons why not to release animals in the forest preserve. They just don't belong there. And there are always groups and places that can take them. The Chicago Herp Society took her, and I've had her now for 18 years. So she's been with me for a long time. But Dirk does. That this is his best girlfriend. She does not like him. It is not a mutual.
Oh
thing.
no, unrequited love. Deb, we have one last question, which is what kind of turtle is she? Just to clarify.
It's called the three-toed box turtle.
Okay.
So we have 4 box turtles in the United States. The eastern and the ornate are native here. And then the three-toed, and I don't know if she's gonna you're gonna hide your toes. She's not gonna show us, but on her back feet, she only has 3 toes. So that's how you can always tell. And like he has 4 toes. All the other box turtles have 4 toes. And I have no idea why they evolved that way, but amazing.
Well,
So,
thank you so much. This has
yes.
been amazing. It's been a really good preview for folks who are coming on Saturday.
Yes.
I know that we are right up against 7 o'clock here. So,
Sure.
and I do want Alana to give us a bit of a preview of what's next, but I wanted to make sure that everybody had a chance to say thank you to Deb. And, you know, if you are going to be here on Saturday in person, make sure to come by and see some of these things again.
Yes, everything you see, everything you saw right now will definitely be there on Saturday, plus many more. And I'm very hands-on. I you know, if people want to touch and even hold some things, you know, that is why I'm there. So I hope that you will come and enjoy the amazing world of herpetology. And thank you so much, Alana, too, for having me every year. It's my favorite show I do, and I do a lot, but it is just such a fun show. So I'm honored to get to come again, and I'm also really honored that those of you who came tonight, you know, you had so many other things to do, and so I'm honored that you came to join me. It means a lot. So
thank you, Deb. I have to say, selfishly, I'm so happy that you were part of the virtual festival, because I never have time to spend any time with you at the event. You have been at every event, and I always run by and I see everyone having fun, and I know how informative you are. So this has been amazing. Thank you so much. There are more things to come for all of you out there. Tomorrow we have yoga with Rebel Human at Temperance Beer Company. So yoga amongst the tanks. We have a virtual tasting and behind the scenes tour with Old Irving Brewing Company on Thursday. And then on Friday, Nick will be hosting Beer and Nature Trivia Night. So if you have attended any or all of these webinars, you will have a leg up, because many of the questions from these webinars are going to be at trivia night. And then of course, please, if you can, join us on Saturday for Be in the Woods. And the last thing I'll say is, if you have any questions and you want to know more about Friends of the Forest Preserves, our programs, or our events, you can visit us at fotfp.org. You can contact me directly, Ilana at fotfp.org. And yeah, please visit the look at the rest of the schedule for Beer in the Woods. Nick, I'll pass it back to you. Thank you all for coming.
Yeah, and I honestly, I think our time here is done. Thank you guys staying so much, and we will see you again next time, whether that next time is tomorrow or next time on Saturday. If you're going to be coming in person, check back with us and let us know, you know, that you loved the frog lady. Thanks, guys. Bye.
bye. All right, dude.
Oh my gosh, Dirk, you're so cute.
I know he is. He is one of my top 5 favorites. So he always has been and always will be.